I'm going to discuss the origins, the sexual origins of Cain killing his brother Abel. As you know, the first births were Cain and Abel. What's not known, and it only comes down by the oral tradition, is that each of these sons were born with twins, female twins. The difference is, though, that Cain had one female twin. Hevel had two. So he was part of a triplets. He was one male with two females. So let me repeat this, that each of these sons of Adam and Eve were born with female counterparts, twins. But Hevel had two female twins in the womb. So there was another woman there. Each of them, to generate the race, married their twin sisters. Cain married one, his twin, and Hevel married one of his twins. And this is where the whole animosity and trouble and eventual killing comes in. It was the fight over Hevel's second twin sister. And this is a deep psychological thing about brothers, which emanates later on in Yosef and all sorts of things. But it's at the origin. But let me try to examine the psychology and the mind of Cain, because I come from the seed of Cain. And quite frankly, my brother died under my care. So I know I've come from the seed of Cain. I knew this before he died also. But this is his dying was a manifestation of that I come from that seed. I feel that Cain knew from the start that to be complete, you needed two women. So in a certain sense, Cain was jealous of Hevel, that he had two women with him. The reason, this is not like a fantasy or something that he wanted two women. It comes from the concept of Shabbat. You see? Shabbat, which is the feminine, has two components. Shabbat is Yom HaShishi, Yom Shivishi, seventh day, which comes after the 6 days of creation. That's a feminine component. And then it's a Shabbat. It has two components, Yom Shivishi and Shabbat itself. Two feminine components. And so Cain understood this and wanted two feminines. See, there were no sisters born here. You know, to progenerate the race, they had to marry their own sisters. They're twins. Now this comes from And why I'm completely assured of this, I just had a dream, a morning dream. After I woke up, I went back to sleep and had this dream about that the Mishnah comes from the feminine. Now, who knows about the Mishnah coming from the feminine side, from the women's side? Because it doesn't come from necessarily the word Mishnah, it comes from Mishneh. Same words, same letters. And Mishneh means the double of, like a twin. Means the second of. Again, like a twin, a two-ness. A second of. To be complete for the oral Torah, which is the Mishnah. The second. You needed two. And there was Cain only had one. And Hevel had one. The fight is over the two. Who is the real progenitor of the race? Now to do that, Cain kills his brother and marries Hevel's other twin sister. And the race goes on. The race goes on because you needed two women, the two Hays in the divine name. I had some gematria that even came down to me, some weird things about this dream, because I did the three letters of the names of the sons of Adam and Eve, Cain, Hevel, and Shet. And I took the first three letters and I spelt them out. First, in the dream that I was having, there's some other parts. And then the person, the rabbi I was talking to in the dream, it was a Reform rabbi, by the way. They didn't understand the Mishnah. I said, he said, how do you spell Mishnah? And I spelt it and didn't come out. I said, it's Mem Yud Shin Nun Hey, which it isn't. But in the dream, I spelt it two ways. I spelt it with a Yud. And then later on, after I woke up, I did the gematria of that, and that's 405. That second way. And then before that, I realized, before I had that dream earlier in the morning, I wrote down the three names of the Cain and Hevel and Shet. And I took the first three letters only, and of the first letters of each of the names is a Rosh Tivo, and the first is Cain, that's 100. Then Hevel is 5, and then Shet is 300, that's 405. And that 405 came out to be the way the Mishnah was spelt in my dream with an added M, with an added Yud. Spelt wrong, but for the dream purposes, to show that I was right. Because you need two. And that's Yom Shivishi and Shabbat. And that's the Yud Hey, Vav Hey, the two Hays. And you need this mirror image. In the same way I'm doing this two-ness here. It's like a mirror image as I'm speaking. And this mirror image for Cain, you need two women to be complete. And this comes into the S&M world. Because very often in the S&M world, the wife doesn't want to do the fetish world acts. And so very often, the male is forced to go do his sexual fetishes, his concepts of the S&M, the BDSM world, with somebody else. This is the same way Adam lived with Lilith and Hava. A attuneness at the actual source. And this attuneness was seen by Cain and wanted to have the same type of thing. And even on this concept of Shabbat, of Shivishi and Shabbat, there's a difference in the feminine. One is a continuation of the 6, and then there's a Shabbat. And that continuation of the 6 may be because here that's what I had in that dream, that I thought that the Mishnah comes from the woman. And then the line of the Mishnah, the oral Torah, comes from the woman's side. And that Mishnah as the double, it's the second, maybe the second twin. And Mishnah, remember, has 6, what do you call it? Tractates. There are 6 parts of the Mishnah. Why? Because the Shivishi is the completion of the Mishnah. Then I spelt out those 3 letters of Cain, Shet, the first letters of Kuf, Shin, and Hey. And I spelt that out, and it came out to be 552, fully spelt out. Kuf, Shin, Hey. Kuf 186, Shin 360, Hey 6. That came out to be 552. Then I happened, after the dream, spelt the word Mishnah. And Mishnah fully spelt out as 552. So Mishnah corresponds to the 3 sons, the first letters, the Rosh Tivot of the 3 sons of Adam and Eve. And this is all in a warrior's component and emanated for the second twin of Hevel, for the second woman. So I wrote down that the Mishnah comes from the line of Hevel's second twin. That's why Cain desired her. Cain recognized that the Mishnah, not the Torah maybe come from the first twin, but the Mishnah comes from the second twin, the oral Torah, because there's 2ness of everything. There's written Torah and oral Torah. There's light and there's dark. There's pure and there's impure. And to be a complete totality, you have to have both. And that's the whole secret of the Aleph and the Samak. Aleph Samak is Ein Sof, and it's reverse. Samak Aleph, Sitra Akra, as a totality. If you don't have both, you have no totality. And that's why he desired Hevel's second twin sister, and didn't want Hevel to marry the second twin. They each married their own first twin, but there was an extra woman. And that extra woman was the progenitor of the human race. That extra woman was the reason of the killings and the desire to spread out, and the necessary component. And this is a very deep issue, because it's one of the reasons they didn't kill, Hashem didn't kill Cain. Put the mark on him. And more, there's that mark, that oath. Because an oath is the highest thing. He put the oath on him. And he spread him out, kicked him out. And as a progenitor of a race, a necessary act. And it's all because of Hevel's second twin. So when they talk about, the importance of women in the race, it's all because of Hevel's second twin. Unnamed, by the way. Just like the unnamed women, unnamed everything here. So I wanted to bring this in about the necessity for the second woman. Necessity for plural marriage, polygamy, or whatever the word is, polyamy. The idea of people having a mistress that's been brought down. They have a social wife, and then somebody who they have their, more internal sexual desires with. Now, my question is, and how to accomplish it, which I do feel, by the way, is possible, to combine both with one woman. You see. And I do feel that's possible. It's difficult, however. But it's possible that these two women come together as one. And that's, in a certain sense, the Shabbos candle that's twisted. The twisted candles. And in a certain sense, why we have two Shabbos candles to begin with. One for Yom HaShishi and one for Shabbat. And the woman lights the Shabbos candles. But in a certain sense, this woman has to actually combine the virgin and the whore. And so that's a role of women. But that's the desire of man, which comes from the origins of the human race, from Lilith and Havah, from the twin sisters of Cain and Abel, and the triplets of Hevel. Abel's two twin sisters. And the sexual desire, sometimes in the fetish world, of a man to have two women at the same time, sexually. Or for a man to watch two women. And these are very deep issues that have to be addressed to get to the real facts of the matter and how we're going to proceed and how the two sides of Ein Sof and Sitra Akra have to come together. And then we'll realize that we're living in Olam Haba.